I, 20 female, hooked up with my stepbrother, 20 male, and I'm completely panicking. I'm 20 female, and my stepbrother is also 20 male. He's 5 months older. Our parents only got married a few years ago, so we only lived in the same house for 1 year. We weren't very close at all, more like awkward acquaintances, but we went to the same college. It's a small college near our town where basically everyone goes who stays in the area. We both are in the business school, and so we're in a lot of the same classes and activities, so we ended up having similar friends. We got closer as friends / siblings while in school, though my best friend is my roommate. We were all at a bar last Saturday, and my stepbrother was being really nice after a guy I was supposed to meet up with never showed. He kept buying me drinks and laughing at my jokes, and I was a little too drunk and I kissed him. He seemed really into it, and we went back to his place and had... and we went back to his place and had... The next line, it was really good. And he was complimenting me so much. Kind of bummed for a minute that he's not like some random guy. But then the second it was over and I left, I haven't answered his text since. And I've been nauseous ever since. I literally feel like the grossest person in the world. I don't know if I just initiated this because no one here has really liked me and I was feeling desperate or what. I feel so guilty and I don't know if I should tell my mom or block him or what. I'm going back and forth between having an anxiety attack and remembering like things about him. What the fuck? I don't know if I should transfer. Sorry for the rant. I'm in such a tailspin. Should I cut him off? Tell my mom? Pretend it never happened and just distance myself? Try to go back to being friends? Question mark. Help. Okay, let's get back into this update. You all made me realize the big issue isn't that we're step siblings because it's not blood, but that if it goes badly, we will be in each other's lives forever. I went to the class that we're in together this morning. I skipped it on Monday because I was freaking out. And after we talked, he seemed really nervous and stressed and was worried that I wasn't okay. I told him how much I was freaking out. I even told him about this post, haha. I asked him and he admitted that he did have feelings for me, but was never going to act on them and was shocked when I kissed him. I didn't tell him anything about my feelings, but said I appreciated his honesty, but it can't happen again. He was okay with that and basically said he'll do whatever I want going forward. I'm a little bummed because I wish that he was a regular person, as in my good friend not living in my house during winter break, and I could give it a shot. Part of the reason I think I avoided answering him for so long. He's one of the kindest people I know, and I'm obviously attracted to him. But the comments have solidified for me that it's not worth it to hurt my mom and potentially cause a rift in my family forever. Not when we can stop right now and stay friends. Some people were saying to just be friends with benefits, but I think we're way too close for that, and it would turn into dating, so it wouldn't work. I do know this will probably be an issue with anyone else we date. However, I think it would have been an issue anyways. We hang out a lot. He's always doing things to help me, picking me up at night, opening doors for me, etc. And obviously some of that will have to stop if either of us start dating someone else. For now, we agreed to just stay friends like before and see how things go. As far as my mom goes, she really pushes for us to be a family. My dad isn't in the picture and my stepdad has kind of taken on the role of dad with my siblings. I don't think of him as my dad, but they do send me money every month, come visit me at school, and pay for my apartment. So I'm not exactly a full adult either, free to just completely make my own choices. And for the people saying he got me drunk and took advantage of me, we were at a college bar. Everyone was drunk. He was the same level as me, and I wasn't so drunk that I couldn't remember everything, so I don't think that's the case. For people saying it's fake, it's not. There's plenty of comments showing how this happens more than I realized, and if it was, I'm sure this update would be more exciting. LOL. We're going to see how it goes. We're acting normal for now. I'll update this update, haha, if anything major happens.
So a lot of you guys were confused as to why this was my first Christmas with my brother and why I haven't seen my mom in like over 10 years, and I got you. As I've talked about, I was born in Haiti. I wasn't born here. I came when I was like 7 with my dad, and at that time, my brother was only 1. And from what I know, how the immigration process works is that only direct family members can file for one another. So my grandma, who's my dad's mom, filed for him. He's my dad. He came with me, and my brother was too young. Now, another part of the immigration process is that you can file for spouses also. So my dad is obviously my mom's spouse. So it was supposed to be that like he came here, gets a little established, and then he would file for her and my brother. Yeah, that's not what happened, because we came here April 2009. By November 2010, my dad would die from cancer, which screwed up everything. So because of that, everything was on me now. All my family who were in the States, they were all my dad's family. They had no blood relation to my mom. I was the only one with blood relation. But I could not file for my mom yet because I was literally only like 9 when he died. I visited my mom once in 2011 and once in 2014. From what I know, she would go asking the embassy for a visa, saying, you know, I want to see my daughter, and it'd kind of just be like, not a good enough reason. Like, I remember in 2020 when I was graduating high school, my family literally tried to get special permission, and they were like, okay, so she can see her daughter graduate. I had to talk to my principal and get a letter to be like, she's actually a student here and she's actually gonna graduate. But then the pandemic happened, and so, you know, she couldn't come, and I didn't even have an actual graduation. And also in 2020, I was 18, turning 19 September of that year, so that means I could take my citizenship test, and as a citizen, I could file for my mom to get a green card for her to come here. But COVID was happening. So summer 2022, I officially began the process of applying for my citizenship, but literally because of school and everything else, it literally wasn't until summer this year I officially took my test and became a citizen. But then this year, Biden came out with this program for places like Haiti, who are basically countries in crisis, to be able to come here and stay for 2 years. A family member had to put in an application. So my aunt, who raised me, put in an application in January. We did not hear back for them to be able to come here until May. But now that I already have my citizenship, you already know, I already put in the application to file for my mom, but we got our results back, and basically they were like, it's gonna take us a year to let you know. But basically, for the sake of my mental health, I just try not to think about that, and I'm praying for the best, and my mommy gets to see me graduate college in May, and I'm just happy and I'm thankful that we even got to see each other, because I thought it was gonna be a lot later than that.
2 years ago, I was living in a studio apartment in Boise, just me and my dog. And I was really loving it there until some unsafe events happened, and then I felt like I had to get out. And then around that same time, I met a girl with a dog the same age. So our two puppies played together really, really well. So we kept hanging out to let them play, and me and this girl were fast friends. We got along really well. We are going to call her B. So within the first few times of B and I hanging out, we decided that we wanted to live together, and that would be so good for us because our dogs could play all the time and we get along. So yeah, it just seemed like the greatest idea ever. B and I ended up finding a really nice apartment where we could have both of our dogs. It was like a luxury apartment. It was a cool place. It was expensive. I had to pay over $1,100 a month, and she was paying just under $1,000 because I had the master bedroom. And it was outside of Boise, which kind of sucked because it's a bit of a commute, but overall it was the best option we could find. And we were really excited about it, or at least I thought we were really excited about it until she didn't sign the lease. So I talked to B and I'm like, why are you not signing the lease? It's okay if you don't want to live with me, but I need to know that now because I don't want to be homeless and we are running out of time. And she was like, oh, no, that's not it. I do want to live with you. It's going to be so great. I just have been putting it off. I'll do it. And then she eventually did sign the lease. Within the first 2 days of being in our new apartment, we get a note on our door from our downstairs neighbor who says that we are ruining the community, that basically she doesn't want us there because our dogs are too loud because we left them and they barked while we were at the grocery store once. I immediately get nervous because I don't want to get kicked out of this apartment. And so what I do is eventually I start working in person, and anytime I'm not there, I make sure that my dog is in doggy daycare or with a dog sitter. B, on the other hand, leaves her dog in the kennel while she works, which is understandable. And luckily she works only part-time, so it doesn't have to happen a lot, right? That's 20 hours per week that the dog has to be in the kennel. But then every day after work, B would also go hang out with friends, and B would be gone for parties and just not come home. And so eventually the dog is staying in the kennel for 12 plus hours a day. And when I'm not there, I can't let the dog out. And so the dog is howling and howling, and the downstairs neighbor is trying to get us kicked out because of it. And I am increasingly miserable because I'm having to work full-time, go to school full-time, and take care of two puppies, which the other puppy is not potty trained. And every time I told B, please stop letting your dog poop and pee inside, I wasn't mad at the dog because it's not the dog's fault. It was B's fault because she would not let the dog outside when it needed to go outside. And on top of that, this list goes on, but one thing that drove me nuts is that she never paid her rent on time. I would have to front the cost that's over $2,000 for the both of us to pay all of these bills and then just wait for her to send me her part of it. And I'm like, why can't you just be responsible enough to pay on time? And I would ask her, is this a problem of not having money? And she was like, oh no, I just didn't keep track of it. And I told her, if you need money, if this is a financial struggle, let's have a conversation about that. But she was adamant that that wasn't what was happening until a couple months later. So we've been living in the apartment for 2 months, and now she's like, I can't afford to live here, I need to go. And I was immediately a little upset because I'm like, well, we did our budget and we signed a year lease. So what do you mean you have to go? But after that, I was like, you know what? This is a good thing because I am so stressed out with living with B. I can't keep watching this dog be neglected. I don't want to live in fear of getting kicked out of my home. The parties are too much for me. I'm just not like that much of a party person. There was so much going on. So I was like, that's okay. I'll find a new roommate. And I did. Within a couple of days, I had someone else like ready to move in, and then she decided to stay. Things get progressively worse. I'm trying to take care of 2 puppies, but this one puppy needs so much training and attention that I don't have when I'm going to school and work and I have my own dog. And the more that I play and care for this other dog, the less that B shows up. And so I'm like, well, I feel like I'm facilitating the neglect by taking over here. So B needs to take care of her dog, but then she didn't. And then I'm sitting by while this dog is neglected, and the apartment smells horrible from the constant accidents. And anytime B was home when there was an accident, she would just put the feces on the patio, just piles of it out on our patio instead of taking it out to the garbage. And she was having parties and having guys over that were unsafe, that made me feel unsafe, people I knew were abusive, and when I expressed my frustration, she was not happy with that. I knew I wanted out. I was miserable living there, but to buy out of the lease would cost me $3,500, and I absolutely didn't have that. I barely had money for my bills and having to randomly cover B's bills, so that was not an option. I just thought, like, I'm gonna have to figure out how to put up with this for an entire year. 6 months in, it's Christmas, and I go to my family's house and I win the lottery. And I immediately was like, this is my ticket out. I don't have to live in that miserable home anymore. I can buy my house. And I was just so relieved that I don't have to go back to that miserable place. I mean, I did, but only for a few weeks. I was like, I'm gonna buy a house as soon as I got back there, but I knew I couldn't tell B because I didn't trust her knowing that I had money. She had already been taking advantage of me. So I keep it a secret, but I do tell her, like, hey, I'm looking at buying a house. I tell her as soon as possible so that she has time to kind of think about who would take my place or what she would want to do. In the meantime, I was friends with one of my neighbors who was also looking to buy a house, and I was talking to her about that process, and I said how I won the lottery, so that's why I'm going to be able to buy one, and she was so happy for me. And then after a couple of weeks, I found the house that I wanted to buy, and I began that process, and I told B what happened. I was like, hey, I won the lottery, so that's why I'm buying this house, and I just want to make sure you're in a good situation, even though, you know, I've loved being friends. It's time for me to go. And then she was like, I know. The neighbor told me that you won the lottery a long time ago. And I was like, what do you want to do then? How about I get you a new roommate? And she's like, no, I refuse to live with anyone else. And I'm like, when you were gonna leave, I got a new roommate. I had someone lined up, and now I want to leave and you won't accept that. She's like, absolutely not. You will not have anyone live in here that I don't know. And then I started talking to friends and trying to find a friend to live there, and I found some like potential candidates, and she just was refusing everything. So I was like, please let me go. And she was like, well, you need to pay the full $3,500. And I was like, do you realize that even though I just won the lottery, all of that money is needed to give me the chance to buy a house? Like, why would we pay $3,500 when we could just get people to move in to replace us for free? So she refuses all of our free options. She refuses to live with anyone. She just wants me to pay the money so that she doesn't have to do any work and she can move out. But she doesn't want me to do it immediately because she needs time to find a new place. So she says that she will pay the full rent for the apartment for a month if I pay the full buyout fee. And that was the only option I had to get out of there. I was like, you are going to destroy the apartment while I'm gone, because like, it's bad now, but imagine if I'm not there cleaning up after that dog and you're having all these parties. Like, I cannot have that put on me. So I had her get my name off the lease, and then I put the full amount of the buyout fee in a bank account. And our agreement, the contract that we signed with the apartment complex, was that I would be off the lease immediately, and then B would pay the buyout fee on the 15th of the following month. Now, the account that had the money in it was a shared account, and B said, hey, can I transfer this out? And I was like, yeah, you can, but just so you know, all of your bills are automatically coming out of this account because that's how I set it up for us, because you didn't set up anything. And she was like, okay, I'll just leave it in there. So I get out, I move into my house, and that money is in our shared account, and the 15th of the month passes. Nothing. she doesn't actually use the money that I gave her for the buyout. I don't fully understand what her plot was, but the money that she got out of me, she didn't use for the buyout as the contract stated. So I took half of it back. I left the other half because I felt too bad.
So my mum called me this morning to let me know that she'd been broken into. Honestly, I feel ill thinking about it. So I wake up bright and early this morning to a text from my mum asking me if I'm awake. I said, duh, of course. Whenever your mom texts you that early in the morning asking if you're awake, you always panic. At first I was thinking like, has my granddad died or something like that? I was like panicking thinking somebody had passed away. And then she told me that they had been broken into and robbed. I really cried about this because just thinking how scared her and my little brother were, I can't. So basically my little brother woke up, who's only just turned 10, by the way, like only just turned 10. He's sat up in bed and there is a man stood at the foot of his bed staring at him. And I just want to mention, when you go into my brother's room, you can tell it's a very little boy's room. Like there's pictures of Minecraft on the wall, there's pictures of Fortnite on the wall, like he's got his bottles of Prime lined up, like you can tell it's a little boy's bedroom. Like I am just disgusted that somebody would go in there, realize it's a little boy's room and continue to walk in with the intention of stealing a child's things. So Chuck has sat up in bed, seen this figure, and I don't know how, like I keep saying this, if that was me, I would have been choked, silent, not able to speak. But he somehow managed to pluck up the courage to shout, "Mom, there's someone in my bedroom." My mom's replied to him and gone, "Oh, it's just Lauren, she must have just got home." Because my sister had been out at a party and it was like the early hours of the morning, so she thought it was my sister getting home from that party. So Chuck replied to her and said, "But they didn't say anything." Obviously, if his sister had come into his bedroom to say goodnight, she would have gone over, given him a little kiss, said night-night, like, this wasn't Lauren. My mom immediately red flags and like sends the dog after him. So my mom has sent the dog after him. Keep in mind, she's just a little French bulldog, but she's very barky, so that Lola literally saved them in this situation. And she's not an aggressive dog at all, but I think she must have picked up on how like terrified my mom was, because she actually tried to bite the boy that was in our house. Mom lives in like an old Victorian terrace house where the kitchen is like at the back of the house. So the guy has run down the stairs, through the lounge, into the kitchen, and is trying to get out of the kitchen door. And there, you can't get out of the kitchen door, like it is fully locked, it's fully bolted. My mom takes the key out of it, like he wouldn't have known where to find the key, he was stuck in the kitchen. The only way out of the house is back past my mom in the lounge, out of the kitchen, past my mom, and then down the hallway, out the front door. Mom has chased him down the stairs. I don't know where she got the balls from, because I would have been absolutely terrified, but I mean, kids in the house, you got to do what you got to do. My mom is much more of a ballsy woman than I am. So my mom has gone down, chased after this boy. She realized it was a boy and not like a fully grown man. He was like between the ages of like 15 and 18. Stood in the lounge while the dog is like biting at his ankles, and she's like, "Get the dog out of my house." So she's like screaming at this boy, telling him to get out, and he finally walks past her. And you know what he does as he's walking out of her house? He sucks his teeth at her, as if he's annoyed with her for interrupting his theft. I honestly just think the audacity of sucking your teeth at the person's house you've just broken into scared their little boy absolutely. It's like, what? Honestly, I don't know how she had the self-restraint, because that would have wound me up so bad. You just come into my house, stolen from me, terrified my children, and you're sucking your teeth at me. And honestly, the bit that made me cry was my mom said that Chuck was so terrified that he threw up. Like, actually think about how scared you have to be sick. He is literally thrown up from fear. And obviously Chuck isn't my son, but I feel like he's one of my own, and I just literally, like, I have cried all morning about it. I just can't. The fact that that little boy was so terrified that it's actually made him physically be sick, just, you should go to jail for the rest of your life, honestly, for that. Like, he is going to be traumatized for the rest of his life from that. Honestly, I am just so horrified. Thankfully, he only managed to steal one thing, and it was one of my presents, which I'm so glad about, that it wasn't one of the children's or something like that, because I can go without. I'm so glad it wasn't one of theirs. Like, this kid has gone around my mom's house unwrapping the Christmas presents from under the tree and out of rooms, trying to decide what he wants to take with him and what he wants to leave. I just can't. Christmas is such a magical time for children, and now for the next few years, Chuck is going to remember this. Last Christmas we got robbed, last Christmas we got robbed. And that's going to correlate in his mind. Like, you're just sick. And I'm also so glad that my family is spending Christmas at my house this year, because most of the presents that would have been at my mom's house are at my house, because I've been bringing them down. So honestly, the main thing I wanted to say to you guys is just be careful this year. Make sure all your windows are locked, make sure all your doors are locked, like double check them before you go to bed. I am genuinely horrified by this, and so is my whole family, so please just be careful, guys, because I don't want this happening to anybody else. And for anyone that's got dogs and stuff like that, don't leave your dogs in the garden unattended if you've got an accessible garden. I'm just so sad for Chuck, and I hope that he sleeps better tonight at my house, because we've got 3 dogs, there's 2 of us, we've got security cameras everywhere. I'm going to show him all the security cameras, hopefully feel safer, so fingers crossed. Because I am just on the way to Wolverhampton to go and pick the kids up, ready for Christmas, and then my mom, my nan and my granddad are coming the day after.
I kicked out my pregnant daughter from my home. I have a daughter who is 27 years old, and she has 6 kids and 3 baby daddies. She receives child support from 2 of the fathers, and the 3rd one she is currently still with, and I believe they've been together for 5 years. My daughter currently works part-time, and her husband is a full-time chef. They moved in with us about a year and a half ago because they got evicted from their last home. My daughter and her family does have 2 of the upstairs rooms in the house, but the thing is, it's still not enough for 6 children and 2 parents. The issue here is my husband and I don't ask them for rent, and they still constantly ask for help, meaning they need help paying the phone bill and the car payment. And my husband and I intentionally do not ask for rent, that way they can save, but it just seems like they're not saving at all if they continue to ask for help. And I feel like not paying rent is just a huge relief on their end, so why can't you pay a phone bill? I have to put up with loud voices throughout all hours. I also wake up during different times so I can cater to my grandchildren, and I would never say no to my grandchildren because they are my babies, and I do believe family is extremely important. Personally, I didn't expect my daughter and her family to stay here for this long, especially because my husband and I had planned to remodel, but of course we had to put a pause. On Christmas Eve, my daughter gathered all of us into the living room, and she announced she was having her 7th baby. Everyone in the house was happy, and of course I was too, but I felt a little bit more dread than happy. I felt this way because that would mean another child in the house, and there's already no room. I looked over at my husband and I noticed that he just felt the same way as me, but we obviously wanted to hide it from my daughter because obviously I didn't want her to feel some type of way. Later that night, my husband and I had a discussion amongst ourselves. A couple of days later, we had a family dinner, and my husband and I decided to bring it up and tell my daughter and her boyfriend that they had 2 months to move out. As much as I love my daughter and her kids as well as her boyfriend, I just cannot tolerate having another child in this home. My daughter started crying and she told my husband and I that it is not fair how we are throwing her to the streets. I apologized to my daughter and I told her that I was sorry, especially because I know how tough it is for her, but the thing is, it was impossible to be living in these conditions. The crazy part about all of this is the fact that my daughter demanded to take me to court, and I told her if she were to take me to court, the court would literally only give her 30 days, so she's lucky that I'm even giving her 2 months to move out. But the fact that I did everything for you, now you're gonna throw it in my face. My daughter also made sure to emphasize how I was being selfish, and now her grandbabies no longer have a home to live in, so she also ended up making a Facebook account, and she made a little group and basically said that she's looking for a apartment or some sort of place to live because her parents don't give a damn about her and how they kicked her out, and basically all of these like sorry excuses to make her look like the victim. In my opinion, if my daughter and her boyfriend knew how to save, they wouldn't be in these conditions right now. And also too, I feel like it's very selfish of them to accuse me when all I did was help them. I feel like they became very comfortable in my house, which is why now they really don't know what to do. But I feel like 2 months is a perfect amount of time to give them an idea of what exactly they're going to do. Do you think I was in the wrong for kicking my daughter and her boyfriend out of my house, or do you think I made the correct decisions? What would you do if you were in my shoes?
Story time about how my parents literally ruined my Christmas. So usually like every year our family goes on a Christmas vacation. And this year we were going to go to Aspen, which is, I don't know, Aspen kind of sucks anyways. But like my mom had brought up the fact that maybe we should go to Singapore, or like maybe we should go to the Maldives, because like I've only been there twice and she wants me to see like different cultures or something. I don't know. So anyways, my dad says yes, of course, because like he's not gonna say no to my mom. And we booked tickets to the Maldives, which is like pretty cool. So like right before we leave, literally like only 2 hours before our plane takes off, my sister gets sick, and like she was totally fine. So, but because she's sick, my nanny, who normally comes with us on like every trip, says that she can't go with because she can't risk getting her baby sick when she comes back I don't know. So then my mom is like freaking out because obviously like we have the plane waiting and our pilot is literally sitting there on the runway, and we're like, we can't go without a nanny. And like, I don't want to go anywhere else besides the Maldives. Like, I don't want to go to Aspen. I'm sorry. So finally, like, my nanny decides that she will go to Mexico, because Mexico is only like, I don't know, like 3 hours. So if things get really bad and my sister keeps getting like super sick, then she can just go home. So yeah, now you guys are not going to see me in the Maldives. You are going to see me in Mexico because my sister is annoying and my family sucks. So Merry Christmas to me.
Going on another date. So while we get ready, I thought I would talk about how on earth I got to this place after asking my husband for a divorce just 6 months ago. Yeah, basically this is my guide for how the fuck to move on from toxic men and get your life back. Start off, breakups suck, and it took me a long time to get to where I am, but I feel like with only 6 months and being together with someone for 7 years, I can't believe I am actively dating. The first step in moving on is accepting that you're broken up with someone, accepting that that person is no longer in your life. They're no longer someone that you can just pick up the phone and call or text or rely on in any way. Honestly, the decision to ask my husband for a divorce was really not a difficult decision for me. Second that I asked him for a divorce, I basically cut off all communication with him. You cannot expect yourself to be able to move on from someone if you continue trying to reach out to them. Delete their number, block them, or even change their contact name to something that would piss you off if you see it. The day that I asked him for a divorce, which was 8:30 in the morning on August 6th, I have not seen him since then. The fact that I kind of cut off all communication with him and never saw him again since then made it that much easier for me to move on. Realize that isn't a feasible option for everyone, but take it from me. I was legally married. I lived with him. Luckily, we didn't own a house together or any property. Within 3 weeks of me asking for a divorce, I had moved to a different state. Second step to moving on is just letting yourself live in your emotions. Don't run from them. If you feel like crying one day, just sit down and cry. Let yourself feel all of the feels, babe, because you deserve to. Same as blocking their contact, block them on Instagram. You don't want to be able to see any of their content either. You don't want to be able to see what they're doing on a daily basis. When it comes to deleting photos and videos in your camera roll or even on social media, I was with this person for 7 years. That is so much time to dedicate to even looking through past memories. So I just went through and I deleted the most important ones, which was our engagement, birthdays, anniversaries, anything that reminded me specifically of him. Honestly, these are all really small, minor things that helped me get through it, but the main thing that helped me is one word, say it with me: therapy. I don't care what you're going through. I've talked about therapy a lot on my page. So if you're new here, go look at my past videos because I've done a lot of my therapy session recaps. Talking to someone in an entirely unbiased environment, I will not be judged whatsoever for what I say, is the cure to everything. Greater half of this past year, I have been battling a lot of anxiety and depression, getting in my head really easily, thinking really negative thoughts. Therapy has cured it. Friends and family are there as a support system, but I'll be here to say it first, babe. They don't want to hear about it anymore. I was getting tired of hearing myself talk about it, and that's why I felt like therapy was so helpful, because she forced me to talk about it. The obvious one is just doing things for yourself. Towards the end of my relationship, I had jeopardized so much of what I wanted to do, how I wanted to do my makeup, what I wanted to wear, what food I wanted to eat. So for several months after my divorce and after I was actually separated from him, I made sure to prioritize that. Get a dog, because she's saved my freaking life. You also need to remind yourself that you are gonna feel lonely. You are gonna feel super uncomfortable. You're gonna feel sad, but it gets better. I'm here to tell you that. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I have been terrified to be single. Ever since I got married, I remember myself like at least once a month saying to my ex that I am so relieved that I'm not single and I'm not navigating the single world and I'm not out there on my own. But holy, being single is so fun. You just gotta think glass half full, you know? You were tied down to someone and now you're on your own again. You can do whatever you want. The world is your oyster now. If there's a homewrecker in the situation, don't reach out to her. Don't stoop to that level. She knows what she's done. She's bound to know that you know about it, especially if it led to a divorce. I think for anyone that has been wronged in a relationship, you have such an urge to lash out on the other person. Don't lash out on her. She already has low morals, low standards if she is willing to do something like that with someone who is very obviously taken. It's the makeup, and now I'm gonna go get wined and dined by a handsome gentleman. You can do it, babe. You deserve better.